Hey, this is Chris with Phoenix Gaming. Today we're going to talk about Firefight, more specifically GCPS, and the troop selection for GCPS. I had thought I'd already posted this video and recorded it and all of that, and it turns out I didn't. I'm just a goose.
I can't drive. I'm a goose.
Today we're going to look at troops, and there's a lot of them in this army, and we're going to talk about how I'd rank them. I may or may not do an actual tier list just because there's so many. There's going to be a lot to cover and a lot to talk about. So just keep that in mind as we dig through everything. Before we begin, as always, there are announcements. First of those is, hey, if you like the content and you're enjoying what you see, don't be ashamed to hit that subscribe button. We're just a small little channel, but we're a pretty good community, and I like to see that community grow. So if you like it, go ahead and hit that like button, hit subscribe. Thank you. Let's see if we can hit 2,000 subscribers by Christmas. I can do that with your help. Big shout out to Kyle. He was the first one to purchase the Veerman shirt. I will, put a link to that in the description. It's actually Vrooman. It's super cool. Links in the description. I've posted it all over the place. It's funny. I like it. Also, I am going to a bolt action tournament. I'm exploring a lot of different games, as everybody knows, but I'm only going to cover probably 2 to 3 on my channel. We've kind of narrowed that focus down. Clearly, we're going to do Firefight. I'm bringing in Conflict 47. I'm sure a lot of you have seen my Orders from the Front podcast that I've been working on. And then I may dip into 1 or 2 other games because we're going to start running a narrative campaign for Warlords of Erewhon. So you might be able to see some of that content. I've got everything set up to where I can start doing some more battle reports and stream games again too. So that should be coming sooner rather than later. So I'm jazzed for that, and I just wanted to share all of that with you. And as always, I'd like to give a big shout out to Military Gaming Command. If you don't know what they do, they are a nonprofit that supports veterans through gaming. Their target is more specifically video games, but there are some Warhammer and tabletop players in that group as well. They are fantastic people. I will never stop shouting them out. MilitaryGamingCommand.org. All right, before I dig into troops, there's some things that I need to say. First and foremost, I took GCPS to a one-day tournament. It was literally the Saturday after the Michigan GT. So I played 3 rounds at Michigan GT, then I played 3 rounds on the following Saturday. I was the ringer. I had to play because we had an odd number of people. And so I thought, man, I'll just take GCPS. I don't know anything about the Army, so let's just do it. I didn't like it. It's not my play style, but it did give me quite a bit of perspective on the Army. If I've already touched on some of this, I apologize. Honestly, the more I'm recording this, the more I think I might have already recorded and put this up. But I'm not afraid to do it again. Mama didn't raise no bitch. But anti-tank, it's a weird spot for this Army. You've got things like the Wolverine tank and the Mule. They seem to be like your best options. There's not a lot of AP floating around in the Army, so it's kind of weird. But that's what I wanted to tell you. I did play a single one-day tournament with the Army. First time ever playing them. I know my list wasn't very good or maximized, and getting Maison Labs and then Plague was pretty rough also. So, starting with the Mule, it has a speed of 12-15, so it moves 12, sprints 15, it's armor 6, 4 hit points. Like a lot of light vehicles, it's not exceptionally durable. If you put it out in the open, a massed rifle fire will pick it up real quick. But if you position it well, it could be Kiki's delivery service for you. There are things that you would probably want to put into that would be very good, like the riot troops, which we'll talk about. I don't know that we'll talk about them today. Probably, I think they're specialists, so we'll probably touch on those in the specialists. And then the tank hunters are another option. Again, I think those are specialists. They could be support, but I'd bet money that they're specialists. It's 15 points for a laser cannon upgrade. Otherwise, it comes with an autocannon. The autocannon's 3 AP1 pinning dice, but the laser cannon's 3 AP3 anti-tank. I don't think there's anything wrong with either option. I think the autocannon has its function and its role. But if it's me, I'm probably bringing that anti-tank weapon. As I've seen with this Army, high AP anti-tank weapons are at a premium. And with a lot of your troops having the ability to blaze away, there's not really a reason to take a pinning weapon on your vehicles. If you could take an anti-tank option, I would probably do that and save the pinning for things like recruits, like cheaper troop units that you can move around, and if they die, it's less of an issue, you know. Overall, I think it's a great transport for small, hard-hitting units, you know, just like I said, like the riot troopers, tank hunters, things like that. And 60 is actually not a bad price for the chassis when you put the anti-tank rounds on it. 60 points for 3 laser cannon dice, pretty solid. 45 for the autocannon's also nice, like it's very cheap. Up next, we have veterans. They start with 5 base veterans. They have headstrong, controlled fire, and suppressive fire. For those that don't know, suppressive fire allows you to make a blaze away action as a charge reaction, as long as you have the blaze away and stuff. But controlled fire lets you shoot at a -1 penalty as a charge reaction, and then headstrong lets you make a nerve check if you're pinned to shed your pin before your activation. It's kind of a weird thing, but it allows you to knock that pin off before you actually activate. They hit on 4s with a 1-die blaze away gun. It's, and they have marksman and trademark. So they're very efficient. Hitting on 4s, re-rolling 1s from marksman. Trademark gives them access to a lot of good orders. Additional bodies are 11 points each. You can have up to 10 in a squad, and for 10 points, you can give the unit advanced training. I think the advanced training is very worth it to give you a hard-hitting-ish unit. Like, they don't have any AP, and you got to keep that in mind. But it gives you a very efficient unit in terms of hitting on 4s, re-rolling 1s. You don't have to keep them anchored to a commander. So overall, I think the 10 points is worth it for the veterans. You can put a grenade launcher on up to 2 models or a flamer, and it's like a combo. You don't have to do 2 of one and 2 of the other. It's 1 and 1, whatever you want to do. I like the grenade launcher, but I don't think there's a wrong loadout. It just changes the unit's role a little bit. I'm not very big on flamers. I find flamers to be a little bit underwhelming and very matchup specific. So if I were to take this to a tournament, I'd probably put the grenade launcher on it just because it gives me a more universal weapon rather than, well, I hit dwarves, so the flamer's useless, or I hit Asterians, so the flamer's useless. And then you get one matchup against maybe like rats, and you're just like, oh, I got the one matchup where I'm glad I brought this flamer. That's just my opinion on flamers. I know some people like them. I'm not very big on them. There's a handful in the game that are really worth it. Like there's a Forge Father, one of their mechs has an it burns weapon. That one's worth it. There's a couple of them that are, but overall, I just think they're kind of poopy. I do like veterans a lot. I think they're a very good unit. They are expensive. Not that they're overpriced for what you're getting. It's more just you've got some cheap options and you've got some expensive options, and this just tends to be one of the more expensive options. Sorry, there's something like going on in my peripheral vision and it's messing me up. Recruits, you get 10 bodies, but you can take up to 20, and they're 4 points per additional model. The laser rifle, it's literally the same as pretty much every other troop rifle, and it's just no marksman is the big difference. And they hit on 6s. Designation expendable means they're not going to get access to certain orders. And I don't remember what the orders are off the top of my head. You can look it up in the rules. But the expendable does keep them from getting access to a handful of orders. I will tell you, after playing with this army one time, and I didn't take a single unit of recruits, you absolutely need a unit of recruits in your army. Probably 2. Because what you need is those cheap chaff units, especially for GCPS, where you can put them on the objective, or you can create a buffer to protect your more expensive units and be charge bait so that then you can now counterfire with all your other units supporting it. It only took me really one game. My first game was against a Marauders army, and honestly, I think in terms of kill points, we weren't too far off from each other, and the only reason I beat him was because I just got lucky. I'm not going to lie to you. I won because I got lucky. I needed one very specific thing to happen in order for him to drop the objective, and it happened. I think he had to fail a nerve check with a reroll, and it happened. And so I got lucky. I'm not too proud to admit that. But, my next game was Plague, and I immediately was like, oh, I see. This is rough. You've got to have those cheap chaff units to kind of be buffers so that you can throw them up there, absorb those blows, and then counter-strike. Then you have the Wolverine APC. It's 2 Sponson riot guns. It throws 2 dice at 12-inch range, knockback. It's got a capacity of 10. It's armor 7 and 5 hit points. You can give it smoke for 10. It's not terrible, and it's got its place. But, like, I could just spend 10 points less and get a laser cannon that moves faster. And, you know, it does have a lower capacity, but, like, who cares? Laser cannon, you know? And, you know, what, like I just said, you're going to need cheaper, shitty units to absorb those blows and allow your stronger units to clean up. So you're better off saving those points to get the mule and get the laser cannon, and then, you know, allocating those 10 points somewhere else. Maybe it allows you to get 1 or 2 more recruits or something along those lines so that you're not dying as quickly, things like that. So while I don't hate the Wolverine APC, from a competitive standpoint, I just don't think it has much of a use. If it maybe got heavy armor or you got some sort of weapon option, like the 2 riot guns are just kind of meh. They're short range. They don't have any AP. They just don't do anything. So why would I take it? You know, Rangers are 80 points, and I believe you get 5 of them. They have anti-grav. They have designation ranger, scout, stealthy. And then they have a special rule where you can only take a special weapon when you have 8 or more in the unit. And then they have controlled fire. I love Rangers. I absolutely love them. I think 2 units of them should be in almost every competitive list. You could get by with 1. 3 is probably getting too many. But I think 2, you basically want 2 5-man units of Rangers in every competitive list. They shoot on 4s, they have blaze away, they have marksman, they have trademark. There's a lot of different weapon options you could put in the squad if you have 8 or more Rangers, but I don't think that that's really worth it. I think 5 to 6 to keep them cheap-ish makes them a great utility unit, and having scout allows you to sprint up on objectives or feint, right? You can load up one side and then sprint away after you've deployed, and you start that, you know, the scout move, stuff like that. They have a lot of finesse play, you know, so I think it's a great unit. You should probably make sure you're bringing them. If you struggle with them, if you struggle with them, then honestly, don't bring them. Just because Chris said they're auto includes doesn't mean you bring them, you know, because like I said, they are a finesse unit. If they die, that's not a cheap unit. It's a very efficient unit. And you don't want them just like getting thrown up and getting killed immediately. So just keep that in mind. Then you have the Engineers Heavy Weapons team, and it's just the Heavy Weapons team, except it hits on 4s instead of 5. It ignores slow reload, but you have the same weapon options. It is 20 points more. I think it's a good unit with a lot of versatility. I don't know that it's necessarily worth bringing, and you are limited to 1. Again, I just look at the heavy weapon squads, and I don't really see a lot of reason to take them, especially when you can just, like, get mules. Mules are, you know, what, 4 or 5 hit points? I forget what now, but they're armor 6, so they're like the same amount of hit points with better armor. Sure, they might have less firepower because they don't have 2 guns or 2 weapon systems with targeting systems. There we go. Those are my gang signs.
Please, no gang signs. No, throw it up. I'm kidding.
But what I will say is that, you know, again, if it's me, I'm probably taking the mule. There's nothing wrong with any of the weapons teams. I just wouldn't personally take them. You also have Marines that are 90 points for 10 models, and this is kind of like that in between, right? You have recruits, and then you have veterans, and then Marines kind of hover right in that middle spot. It's 90 points for 10 Marines, and I think that's a good price for the unit. They do hit on 5s with Blaze Away and Trademark. So that's nice because, again, that gives them access to certain orders. Overwhelm 10, so their unit strength is 3 while you have 10 or more models, and then Suppressive Fire, so they can blaze away as a charge reaction. You do have Grenade Launcher, Flamer upgrade. They can take comms for advanced training. I don't know that it's worth it, but we'll get into that in a second. 6 points per model to upgrade to a total of 15 models. This is another pretty cheap unit. 90 points gives you 10 hit points, right? You know, they're not crazy good. If you don't want recruits, if you're just like, man, 70 points is too much for a trash unit. Okay, that's fair. 90 points for a marginal unit, right? Like they're not amazing, but they are still cheap enough that if you're using them to absorb charges and stuff like that, it's not the end of the world. I personally would probably take recruits over Marines just because I'm looking at them from a I don't care that they hit on sixes because I'm probably just blazing away every turn with them anyway, kind of like how I approach my crawlers. But there's nothing wrong with Marines at 6 points a model for the upgrade. You can take a total of 15. It's a good unit. I don't know that advanced training is necessarily worth it for them. This isn't necessarily a unit you want to just put on an island. You could, but it's not necessarily one that you would want to. I would probably save that for things like veterans or rangers. You know, they could be put on an island, and that would be okay. But Marines, I'd probably keep kind of anchored closer to a commander. Hey, I also want to give you a reminder. I do have a merch store. You can see, actually, you can't see because I'm kind of dumb. So let's make it so you can see. Maybe. Brain. Come on with it. There it is. I have a merch store. It has t-shirts and more. You can see the If You Can't Roll Hot Roll Lots t-shirt. I do have the brand new Vrooman t-shirt. It'll be tagged in this video, so you'll be able to click the link and check it out. I do appreciate it. Anything you buy from that store does help me out. And then also, once again, if you like the video, just like and subscribe. I appreciate it. And now let's get back to business. I'm just making sure I did not tier list them. I didn't think I did. And there's a reason for it. I don't know that, and I think I missed one. Did I miss one? I think I did. I think there's regular heavy weapons troops also, and I don't know how I skipped them. Yep, there's heavy weapons teams too. Yep, so sorry about that. The reason I don't want to rank these guys is because each troop kind of fills its own niche. Like, you look at them on paper, and they all basically look the same with slight variances. But once I played with the army, I was like, oh, okay. Like, you need recruits to be that buffer, or Marines, or both. Like, Marines are a good in-between where they could be that buffer, kind of like a crawler unit, right? But they could also be that kind of Maligny-style unit where they're not complete garbage. They actually can do things on the battlefield. And so, you know, I looked at recruits, and I was like, oh, these are just crawlers. And crawlers, now that I've played a lot more games with them, you know, my initial reaction to crawlers were like, these are dumpster juice. But now that I've played more games with them, I understand their role and their niche inside the army. And so I kind of look at recruits very similarly. And then I was looking at the veterans and the rangers, and I was like, man, these are kind of similar too, but really, they're not. You know, I would use rangers more of a utility unit, but I would use veterans more as a Counter-Strike support unit. You know, that's the one you want to kind of keep back so that when your handsome lads, the recruits, get charged, you have something in reserve or behind, not necessarily in reserve in game terms, but something in those back lines that can move up and they can dump fire onto whatever charged them, onto whatever took the objective from you. I look at GCPS now, and I see it being a very shooting-centric trade game. You know, kind of like a very shooty Eldar army where it's like, and you know, you've got to know how to get those cheaper pieces out there to get your opponent in there so that you can trade and trade and trade. So you're not flooding the table per se. You're probably playing more in waves. And, you know, it's one of those where now that I've played a few games with them, I definitely understand that concept with them specifically a lot better. So I didn't really want to rank them because I thought, man, each troop actually kind of fills its own niche and they kind of do their own thing, even though on paper they look very similar. I will say I don't think the Wolverine APC is very good. I think it either needs a different weapon on it, even if it was just a pinning autocannon, or heavy armor, something to make it worth taking. But that gun that's on it right now is not something that makes me want to take it. And having capacity 10 does not matter. When you look at the fact that if I just took the autocannon one, I could get 2 mules for 45, right? 90 points. And then 120 if I upgrade them. And then I've got a more mobile shooting platform that can shuttle around things that I actually need to shuttle. Because I'd much rather put riot troops or tank hunters in there, or even like a small squad of veterans, than a 10-man squad of Marines. Like, why would I want that in that transport? So That being said, that's going to wrap us up. Reminder that I will have some Forge Father videos coming. And I've got a bunch of stuff going on. We've got a lot. Oh, I almost forgot. I will be at the Grand Narrative this year working for GW, and I am super pumped. I get to be in costume, I get to be in character, and my inner thespian gets to come out, and I am jazzed. So if you happen to be in Atlanta doing that, again, do not be afraid to come say hi. I look forward to it. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you next time.